Hey guys, I'm back and we're gonna do some filling. What I wanted to do is let you know, show you that I went ahead, everything's been cleaned off and sanded smooth, and what else is going on over here? And the holes are nice and done. Gee, I can see here that I have a little spot, but like I said, that this is gonna be toned and the screw's gonna cover that up, so I'm not too concerned about that. And the color is a lot more uniform now. Everything dried out. And I gotta do this in the house, which I don't usually recommend, but the grain filler isn't all that stinky. I definitely would never tone in the house, believe me, that stuff is pretty powerful. So I'm gonna do the grain filling, but I wanted to talk about the grain filler. When you first get the grain filler, it's like peanut butter, the kind you have to stir. So it's basically this big hunkin' solid mass of stuff with about 1.5 to 2 inches of oil on top. I was gonna do this video last night, however, I nearly got blisters from stirring that stuff. It took an hour to get it mixed to the point where it wasn't just big chunky globs. I also broke the paint stirring stick that I got from the store, just to tell you how thick it is. So I ended up using an extra one of these little pieces here. This is the same stuff I used to glue the plastic on and do over here. I also decided, because this medium brown does have a pigment in it and dye, I'm not going to do the front, because this is the stirring stick after I got done. Beforehand, granted, this is one of the kind I broke, but it used to be this color. So this now looks like a nice dark piece of walnut. So definitely going to avoid doing the front, because I don't want it to be just this big void, radio-shaped void over in the corner. So what I want to talk about is, since this stuff is as thick as, even when you're done stirring it, it's still thick, like peanut butter, really. So usually I wouldn't, when I used a different brand of paste filler before, I would use mineral spirits, and that's normal to thin it out a bit. Just to be on the safe side, since I hadn't used the Mohawk grain filler yet, I went ahead and picked up a can of their solvent that they recommend, which, as we know, I mean, it doesn't smell exactly like mineral spirits, but that's, you know, it's easy enough to throw something else in there to make it smell different, but I'm pretty sure it is, but I didn't want to take the chance. And I'll experiment with it at some point just to figure out if there's a difference, because this is $20 a can, and it's only 1 quart versus a quart of mineral spirits, which is, I think, $6.50 or something. So definitely they're making some money off of this stuff. However, it does come in a really cool can, I have to say. Now, what I did was, because because the pastewood filler comes in one of these cans, same size, the 1 quart or pint or whatever it is, it's filled up to the rim, basically, with the oil and whatnot. So I made a huge mess trying to stir that. So what I've done is I stirred it up, like I said, last night, until my hands were about to fall off, and I got it all over my hands, and it looked like I was doing a blackface or something on my hands, but it does clean off pretty well. As you can see, I'm back to my pasty pallor. But what I did is I bought one of these cans today, and I put a couple scoops in here, and actually, as it is, I used the solvent that was floating on the top to thin this out. When you thin this out, it should actually be about the consistency of mayonnaise or yogurt, as you can see here. It was too thick. It didn't require too much to thin it out. If you do happen to use their solvent, they recommend you do 1 part solvent to 4 parts grain filler. And I kind of wish I hadn't stirred this up now because I was going to go over a couple of things before I started this. So, here I am making a mess. Obviously you want to do this outside. So I'm going to set that off to the side for just a moment. I wanted to talk about what we're going to do after we put the paste filler on. They recommend, or all the videos and what I've read, old school styles use burlap. Burlap is pretty easy to find actually. You want to get a good one though, the kind that you could make sacks out of. Like the kind, if you're lucky enough and you can get coffee bean sacks, those are really good. I ended up picking this up at Joann Fabrics. It was $3.99 a yard. I bought 2 yards of it. It's a nice sturdy thick burlap, and since Joann Fabrics tends to have sales every other week it seems, I ended up getting this for 40% off. So I got 2 yards of this cheap. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the traditional method. You can use just a stiff towel or whatnot, you know, throw away a rag. Like I said, I'm gonna use this. It's got a little abrasive quality, and you'll see why it's a little bit better to use this when I'm done. I wanted to talk quickly about the Mohawk toners that I'm gonna use. And again, I don't mean to endorse Mohawk so much, but my local hardware store, this is what they carry for wood finishing. They do have a Minwax section, but their Mohawk section, as I may have mentioned before, is all the way up to the ceiling, and it's the entire aisle. It's about 15 to 20 feet long, and they have everything that Mohawk makes, even the tools. So that's pretty much, and it's local, so that's why I'm using their products. It's not that they're bad products, I just don't want people to think I work for Mohawk or anything. So what I wanted to talk about is there's 2 kinds of toners. There is the Ultra Classic toner, and there's the Tone Finish toner. Now the big difference, besides the fact that cans are a little bit different, this is white and this has got a kind of actually a sort of a brownish red hue to it, as if it was a stain, I guess. And the numbers are what's important. The Ultra Classic toner is a 100. What that means, and I always forget this, so I do have their website up. I always get these, reversed. So the 100 series are dye-based toners. So basically these are transparent, so you can see the wood grain. So if the wood looks really good, you don't want to cover it up. I mean, you want the grain to show through. So the 100 series is dyed, so it's transparent. The 101 series are actually pigment based, and these are what you use to cover up mistakes, or I use to cover up mistakes. So when you see, if you're going to do a radio and the side looks really bad, or the front's got a lot of stuff in it you can't get rid of and you want to cover it up, the 101 is the one is the opaque one, the one that is not transparent. So I just wanted to go over that really quick. So what we're going to do, wow, I've already taken up 8 minutes. One long video. So to do this here, go ahead and take the top off. So I'm going to use a spreader stick, which apparently I have misplaced. I am very well organized tonight, apparently. The stuff that I have read said that you should use, they want you to use a stiff bristle brush to rub this into the grain, but I forgot to pick one up, and I do have some foam brushes, and I have a couple of bristle brushes, just the chip brushes you get for, 80 cents or whatever at the local store. So what I'm going to do here is, I think, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this camera off and I'm going to do this by hand. So bear with me for a moment. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scoop some of this stuff up. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the top of the radio here. And that may be a little too much, but I'm going to take, you can use a credit card or whatnot, but I do have these scrapers. I picked them up at Harbor Freight. All my friends call it horror fright, so I was trying not to say that. But anyway, so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and spread it around, and you want to work it into the grain. Nice. And you want to give some good pressure on this. Not enough, of course, to go through the radio, but... So I'm going to go ahead and smear some of this on. Looks like chocolate frosting. Guess you can tell I haven't had dessert yet. So I'm just, like I said, just working this into the grain, and you do want to spread it in there. And you do want to press, like I said. It's good to use I'm using the scraper here, but it needs to be stiff but yet a little bit flexible, because like I said, you really want to work this into the pores. So let's see, get that in there, and you want to make sure you get it all nice and covered. Of course, I'm going to do the bulk of this offline, but alright. And while you're getting it in there, you do want to go ahead and work with the grain, and we're going to go against the grain in a minute, but apparently alright, so now what we're going to do, as you can see, this stuff does make one big mess. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this for a minute. What we're going to do is we're going to let this haze up, and actually it's doing it quite quickly right now. Let's get some light over there. As you can see, it's already started to haze up. Well, it's a little warm in here too. So we just want to let this get just a little bit of a haze over it. You don't want it to be dry. You want it to still be a little workable. So I'm going to give this about 5 minutes, and I will be right back. Alright, well, it's been about 3 minutes. I barely had time to go just double check the back of the can on the instructions. Funny thing is, I'll show you real quick. If you can read this. The back of the instructions here state that they want you to, I don't know if you can read that, but it has these steps, and it gets to step 6, and it says, within a very short time, and then it just says FRO, and it's like they just didn't print the rest of the instructions. Thought that was kind of funny. It's a good thing I watched some videos. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and scrape, and you can see how that's gotten kind of cloudy. So now we're going to scrape against the grain, perpendicular to the grain, that is. And then I'm going to go ahead and scrape that off, the excess off, as best we can. It's not all that easy on a rounded radio. Hopefully you can see that. The good news about this is that once the even though I'm putting it back into this can and it's kind of, the solvent has evaporated, you can always re-wet that with the solvent or mineral spirits. I didn't do very good back here, but I'll just fix it later. Okay, so I got the major excess off. Since this stuff is kind of expensive, yeah, just call me cheap. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put that aside. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our cloth here, and we're going to rub around here in circles. We're going to get it really worked into the rest of the grain. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, not only am I pushing down pretty hard, but the burlap is picking it up. So once you get the bulk of the goop off of there, because it's going to goop up on one side, then you can start, you know, moving your cloth around to a clean side. because the goal here is to make sure that you get all of this off. And you want to work mostly against the grain when you're removing it, because if you go with the grain, you run the chance of scraping some of the filler out. So you just want to go ahead, like I said, and we're going to give this a nice good wipe here as I knock my cheapo IKEA lamp over. Sure, I got that side. And actually it's good that I only did part of this, because that way you get to see just how dark this can make the wood. And it did, and this is exactly why I wasn't going to do the front, is because of exactly what's happening here. Alright, so I believe, looks like I got it. It'll take a little bit to dry some more, but at least this way I definitely can show you what's going on. So, let me sit down here. All right. So as you can see, oh come on, you can focus. There we go. So as you can see here, the grain, see how dark it is in there. The grain is full. Whoop, you can't see my finger here. There we are. The grain is actually been filled. It even brought one of the gouges up. And obviously you can't feel this like I can. Let's see if I can. There we go. Oh, look, right on a gouge. So this is actually a lot smoother when I run my hand over it. It isn't quite like glass. It could probably use a second filling, but again, since like I said, this is not, a perfect, although $40 during the Depression was a lot of money for people. This was a cheap radio, or a fairly cheap radio. This was $40, and I think at the time the cheapest radio you could get was probably $20. I think. Is it a Philco 20? One of their cathedrals. It was always touted as the cheapest. It was $18.95. But anyway, so as you can see, this is filled in fairly nicely. But if you look at the side here, look at the difference between where the fill is and where the fill is not. You can it's lighter here than up here. And I don't know if you can make it out or not, but you can see that this grain here is still open. Oop, that was a perfect spot too. See, especially right here. See where that's open, and you can hear more friction here than when I go up on the top here. Hopefully you can hear that, but it's a lot smoother. Anyway, so this turned out pretty good. I don't think I'm going to do a second coat. If this was a tabletop or an heirloom piece of furniture, or even something you made on your own that you wanted to be really nice, and you wanted that really nice glass-like grand piano sitting on a stage, Steinway, whatever, finish, then yeah, you would do another one. But this actually turned out really well and quite easy. I have to say, since this is the first time I've used, well, that's the can. This is the first time I've ever used the Mohawk brand grain filler. Usually I would use Constantine's, but I didn't have any, and I just hate mail ordering stuff. You pay, the Constantine's is cheaper, it's $10, but I just hate mail ordering something for $10 and then spending $9 or $10 or $11 to get it shipped. It makes it 50% more expensive than this. So this worked out really well. Mohawk makes a good toner, and again, grain filler. And again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to endorse them so much, but they do make some pretty fine products. And just so you don't think I'm a big Mohawk snob. Wow, I saw my big old fat spare tire there. I do use Deft as well. This is, you know, you get it at Lowe's. This works out pretty well. They're satin. I like their satin. I haven't tried the Mohawk satin yet because I have, you know, 3/4 of a can of this, and I'm not going to let anything go to waste. So, anyhow, that's going to be it for right now. I'm going to finish the rest, and I'll go ahead and upload this since this video is now about 20 minutes long. And it's going to take a good 5 hours to upload because beautiful Time Warner Cable loves to give me 50 megabit download speeds, but yet my upload speed is still less than 1 megabit per second. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, and again, I'm going to finish it, and I'll do another video when I'm done with that. Also, I checked my rubber parts from Renovated Radios. It should be here tomorrow, if not Friday. So I'll be able to get back to the chassis and start putting that back together. I just hesitated because there was something I wanted to tell you guys, because if this doesn't come out as smooth, you can also use a little bit of number 3 steel wool. And I was thinking about this last night, and I wanted to let you guys know. When I used to do woodworking before, I used polyurethane, water-based polyurethane. So it was a big no-no with water-based polyurethane to use steel wool. Little steel wool fibers get everywhere, and if you were to use, say, polyurethane, which again we would never use on an old radio, it's not natural, you would end up getting rust underneath the polyurethane, and that's a big mess, and that has to be sanded out, and it doesn't look pretty. So I usually use the Scotch-Brite. They come in, you know, 000, 000, and then 1, 2, and 3. Although 3, you know, will take your skin off. But what I wanted to say was never, ever, 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 and one more time, ever, use steel wool anywhere near a radio chassis, ever. The steel wool bits get everywhere. They will get trapped in between the wafers in your tube sockets. It will work its way up into your IF transformers, and you basically ruin the radio because you will never be able to get them all out without tearing it apart. It just never steel wool. As a matter of fact, I have actually, even though I'm not using steel wool right now, I've actually already put the chassis in another room because I don't want. I do have some 4.0 steel wool because I can't find this in 4.0. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure I let you guys know that. No, steel wool chassis, never, ever. Don't ever clean a chassis with steel wool either. Unless, of course, you stripped all the parts out. But if you're advanced enough to strip all the parts out, you're probably not watching my videos anyway. So I'm going to wrap it up, and thanks again for listening, and I will talk at you guys in a few days.